Hi guys, Mark Franke here. Today I'm going to prepare a solution to problem 13-3B in Excel. This problem is in your textbook. It's listed on the syllabus. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the bottom and I need to calculate current liabilities and quick assets from what they've given us in the book. So they've told us that current assets is 300,000. They've told us that the current ratio is 2.5. And they've told us that the quick ratio is 1.4. So using that information, and we'll label this A, B, C. This is going to be the current liabilities is current assets divided by the current ratio, which gives us current liabilities of 120,000. So I'll put equals A divided by B. And then we'll call that D. So the quick assets are assets that are cash or convertible to cash very quickly. And so the quick ratio is the quick assets over the top of current liabilities. So in order to get that number with what we have here, we're going to take the current liabilities and multiply it times the quick ratio, which gives us 168,000. So we'll say this one is equal to D times C. So now we have our beginning numbers and we can link those in up at the top of the schedule. And then we can calculate working capital. Working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. So that's 180,000. So this problem then has different transactions that they've given us that we're going to go through and analyze and then put into the cells. So the first transaction says sold merchandise inventory that cost $75,000 for $120,000 in cash. So in this instance, current assets are going to go up 45,000 because cash went up 120,000 and inventory went down 75,000. But inventory is not a quick asset, so we wouldn't include that. So that means that quick assets are going to go up 120,000. There's no change to current liabilities from this transaction. So now our current ratio is 2.88. Our quick ratio is 2.4, and working capital is 57,000. Working capital is 225,000. Collected 88,000 cash on accounts receivable. There is no effect on this So we're just going to have the exact same numbers because accounts receivable went down and cash went up, and both of those are current assets and quick assets, so there's no effect. On June the 5th, purchased $150,000 of merchandise on credit. That means that our current assets are going to go up $150,000, and our current liabilities, accounts payable, are going to go up $150,000. So quick assets didn't change. Current assets went up to $495. Current liabilities went up to $270, so our current ratio is 1.83. Our quick ratio dropped to 1.07, and our working capital stayed the same because current assets and current liabilities both went up by the same amount. June the 7th, borrowed $100,000 in cash by giving a bank 60-day 10% loan. In this case, all three, current assets, quick assets, and current liabilities, because the bank loan is a short-term loan, it's a current liability. So now our current ratio is 1.61. Our quick ratio is 1.05. And our working capital stayed the same. On June the 10th, borrowed $120,000 cash by signing a long-term loan. So in this case, we got $120,000 in cash, which is a current asset and a quick asset, and a long-term liability went up, which is not going to affect this calculation at all. So now we have $715 in current assets, we have $508 in quick assets, and our current liability stayed the same at $370. So now our current ratio is 1.93. Our quick ratio is 1.37, and our working capital went up to $345,000. On June the 12th, we purchased some machinery for cash. So we spent a quick asset, $275,000, to buy a long-term asset, which is not part of this calculation. So our cash is now $440,000. Our quick assets are now $230,000. Our current liabilities did not change. So now our current ratio is 1.19, and our quick ratio is 0.63, and our working capital dropped by $275,000. It's now $70,000. On June the 15th, it declared a $1 per share cash dividends on its 80,000 shares of outstanding common stock. So in this case, we didn't pay anything, we just are accruing it. So our current liabilities went up 80,000. Our current assets and quick assets did not change. So now our current ratio dropped to 0.98, which is below 1. That's not a good thing. Our quick ratio went down to 0.52, which is certainly not a good thing. And our working capital is now negative 10,000. That's definitely not a good thing. Transaction on June the 19th wrote off $5,000 bad debt against the allowance for doubtful accounts. There is no effect on current assets because we just wrote off a receivable against the allowance. So their current assets didn't change, quick assets didn't change, current liabilities didn't change. Those numbers all remained exactly the same. So I'll just use the drag tool in this case to bring it all down. I'm not sure why that happened, but I guess it's a formatting thing. Okay. There it is. Those numbers didn't change. On June the 22nd, we paid $12,000 cash to settle an account payable. So in this case, cash went down, our quick assets went down, and our current liabilities went down. So all three of these were affected by this transaction. And our current ratio is now 0.98. Quick ratio is 0.5, and working capital is still negative 10,000. And then our last transaction, it says we paid the dividend. So that was on June the 15th for $80,000. Our current assets going down. Our quick assets are going down 80,000. And our current liabilities are going down 80,000. So now our final quick ratio is 0.97. Our final quick ratio is 0.39, and we ended up with negative working capital of $10,000. That is problem 13-3B. I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.